interest in coding, and we provide 12-week intro to web dev and 12-week data analytics programs for Black, Brown, Indigenous, and non-binary young women of color. We're excited to be able to offer or have this conversation this afternoon. We are excited to have Lyndsey Scott, an amazing model and coder, to talk to us about her pathway into tech and into coding. And we're excited to have Amir be the host of that conversation. Again, it's going to be a STEM-ulating conversation. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy Saturdays to come and hear more about the importance of STEM and coding and its impact on our communities, right? So we want to have more of these conversations and invite people into this space. We are seated in what is actually the geographical heart of Boston. This is Roxbury, Nubian Square, and so from this point you can get to all areas of the city, and it's important that conversations like this take place here. There's a lot of development, a lot of activity that is happening in this community, and we want to make sure that we are a part of that conversation. As I said, if you're not at the table, then you're on the table, right? You're on the menu. So we want to ensure that our young people have the opportunity to meet people like Lyndsey, and that they're inspired and encouraged to be part of what will or what is certainly changing our lives, right? And the impact of tech and STEM on our lives. So I'm excited for you all to be here. I want to thank the staff, because without them, which is Bridget Brown, who is there in the back, Tanisha, Vanessa, Faraja, and Corrine, and so many more. We want to thank them for being a part of this organization. They're an amazing team, invested in the growth and development of young women of color and non-binary folks of color. I'd like to take this time to ask our program coordinator, Faraja, to say a few words to you, and then we'll jump right in. So again, thank you and welcome to this event.
Thank you, Bridget. Hello, everyone. My name is Faraja Thompson, and I'm the program assistant at G-Code. And as Bridget said, G-Code is a Boston-based tech education organization. Currently, we offer 2 foundational programs, Intro to Web Dev and Intro to Data Analytics. And this year, we served over 120 women and non-binary people of color. Our introductory programs are free and virtual. They consist of 12 weeks of learning foundational skills. Our Intro to Web Dev program includes learning coding skills in CSS, HTML, and JavaScript, which are the building blocks of being a web developer or software developer. Our Intro to Data Analytics program includes foundational statistics, advanced Google Sheets, SQL, Python, and NumPy. We take a holistic approach to learning and providing community. Personal and professional development are integral components of the program to ensure participants are ready to take their next steps after graduating. Our application process includes submitting an application, completing pre-work, and then attending an informal interview. So a bit about my role as program assistant. I work with our director of programming, Corrine Stewart, in running the day-to-day operation of the cohorts. I meet with and guide the facilitators in the implementation of our Saturday sessions. I ensure that everything is current regarding our learning and communication platforms. I develop and maintain materials, forms, and other documents housed in the programming department. I'm involved with interviewing and onboarding staff. I'm also a member of the selection committee who evaluate and select new cohort fellows from the applicant pool. I'm excited to participate in today's event. Thank you.
So we are expecting our district Counselor Anderson to join us, but until she does, in the meantime, I'd like to just welcome our distinguished, amazing guest, Lyndsey Scott, to take a seat, as well as our host, Amir Diamond. And let me just tell you a little bit about them. So Amir is an online personality at The Vibe, Houston's leading source for urban alternative music. He is also a vibrant and energetic actor, a social media influencer who has electrified his dedicated following with his infectious enthusiasm, viral interviews, and engaging conversations. Amir was born into radio. His mother is Candy Easton from DJ the Boston's original Black music station, WILD, and current host of Houston's radio station. Lyndsey Scott. Lyndsey Scott is a renowned figure in the world of STEM and technology, simultaneously pursuing a successful career as a model, actress, and software engineer. Her inspiring journey showcases the limitless possibilities within the STEM field. Welcome, Lyndsey and Amir. Thank you.
Welcome to the internet. How are you? Appreciate it. Good afternoon. I'm gonna ask this question. Since this is a part of G Code, I'm gonna say how y'all feeling. Y'all say I'm feeling like a G, all right? How y'all feeling? How y'all feeling? Okay, I like that. I like that energy. Keep that energy going. We're gonna allow y'all to ask some questions as well, but I'm gonna start. First of all, good afternoon. How you feeling, Miss Lyndsey Scott?
Great, so happy to be here.
No, how are you feeling? You're supposed to say I'm feeling like a G.
Oh, like a G.
Okay, good job, good job. So there's a lot of terminology that I personally do not know when it comes to like coding and software engineering. So I may be the butt of some jokes, but I'm gonna ask what I think may be a stupid question. I'm gonna start there. What is STEM?
No, it's a good question because a lot of people actually don't know. I know growing up, it wasn't a term on the forefront of my mind. I didn't even know what coding was until I made my way to computer science course in college. And by that time, I'd actually done coding without even realizing it. I have a little TI-89 graphic calculator. I make games, and that was coding, even though no one taught me to do it. I just picked up the book of documentation, read through it, and I liked games and I wanted to make them. So coding is one of many parts of STEM. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so it encompasses all of that when it comes to education and work.
So when were you able to put a name to it? Like when did you discover that STEM is what I'm currently doing right now?
College. So yeah, I went to school in Massachusetts, Amherst College. And that's when I tried to get into a physics course that semester and it was full, and I ended up just wandering into a computer science course. I had no idea what it was. But I loved it and found out it was in fact STEM.
It's interesting because I feel like a lot of people, they're either very strong in like science and math or very strong in English, but you have obviously had to be strong in both because you do modeling, you're an actress, which requires reading and memorization, and then you're into science and technology.
The nice thing about Amherst in particular is that it had an open curriculum, and so there were very few required courses. I didn't have to take courses in each discipline. I was allowed to choose whatever I wanted. So I took courses on strange Russian writers and a couple of English courses, economics, physics, dance, acting. Obviously, I majored in both computer science and theater, so I did a lot of that, and I had a lot of time to do both of those majors, which was great. And yeah, they're different from one another, but it wasn't uncommon at Amherst to do things like that.
Where did the initial motivation on learning how to code come from?
Okay, well, yeah, like I said, when I was about 12, it was just, I wanted to make games, and I had this book that came with my calculator, And I realized that if I read through it, it gave me instructions on how to make games on my calculator. When I revisited it in college, I just, I think I also liked making games in that class. Our major project is building Monopoly out of code. And yeah, just the idea of having something that you want to use on your own and being able to bring it to life. That's always been exciting to me.
So did you have like family members or friends, or was there somebody in your life who kind of introduced it to you?
Not that introduced it to me, but my father, he actually coded in the military in the Vietnam War, and he was in military intelligence, and he coded in zeros and ones, which is, you know, very different from what I do. I code in words. But yeah, he didn't introduce me to it, but as I started doing it, he tried to let me know that he was a really good coder back in the day. He blew me out of the water.
So one thing that I always say, not just when it comes to STEM, but in all aspects of life, is that representation matters.
Yeah.
And I want to know, did you see yourself in positions that you wanted to be in? Was there somebody that you could see, oh yeah, I want to do that? She's inspiring me to get there.
No, unfortunately. Yeah, it's really difficult. I'm a lead engineer, so I hire a lot of other programmers now. And over the course of this year, I must have interviewed over 40, and none of them were female even. Or I don't think any identified as non-binary. Maybe a few people of color, but there's not a lot of diversity in tech. So I rarely ever get to work with people that I can see myself.
Yeah. Did that ever deter you from wanting to choose this as a career?
No, you know, in college I didn't expect to choose this as a career. I think choosing it as a career came out of not necessarily view, and also some desperation because I was modeling. Right? So after college, I started acting. Acting led into modeling, and the modeling took off first. I had a good career with modeling, but
Great career with modeling, I will say.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I was
And a great career in acting as well. I've seen the clips.
so but yeah, I didn't like the industry, a lot of things about the modeling industry. And so at a certain point when I got my first iPhone, I again picked up the proverbial book, which was in the internet. I looked up documentation online on how to make apps on my iPhone. And I started focusing on that because I knew that that was something I could control when I couldn't control my work in the industry nearly as well.
So I would expect for people to celebrate the fact that there is a young woman who is modeling, who is acting, and who is also a software engineer. Can we clap it up for that? However, I have seen comments online of people trying to pull you down. I saw somebody comment saying, "What a shame." I saw another person commenting saying something along the lines of printing "Hello World" is considered as coding these days.
Yeah, it happens online sometimes, but it also happens in person where people don't believe that I'm a real coder. And I'm very good at what I do, fortunately. So in work, it hasn't held me back completely. There have been times where I've tried to get jobs, and I haven't been taken seriously. For example, there was one time where I went to this party I live in Los Angeles, California. I went to this party in Venice, and it was a coder party. There were all these guys sitting around, and I asked what they were talking about, and they said, "You wouldn't be interested. It's about coding. You know, it's automatically assumed often. I go to hackathons, and no one thinks that I'm a programmer. They assume I'm a designer. And a lot more, there are a lot of female designers, but not very many coders."
Do those comments on social media, do they get to you, or do you let them roll off your shoulders?
Well, I think so. Yeah, there was one time where I saw these comments online, And it was sort of frustrating because I knew that this is a reception I would sometimes get in person and that was holding me back in some ways. But I also saw it as a learning opportunity for those people to be able to say, hey, I was the #1 question answerer on Stack Overflow, this coding site. I just answered all these people's questions about software, iOS software development in order to have the screenshot capture on the website to show that I was #1 in order to join a tutorial team where then I would write these tutorials. And then from that, I did some jobs for little to no pay until I finally got to make consistent money from programming. So it was a journey for me. And at that point, it was a struggle to just walk into so many rooms and have people automatically assume that I didn't know what I was doing. So yeah, it was annoying that I saw that, but I was glad that I saw that so I could address it and maybe just show at least those few people that someone who looks like me can also be a coder.
Now, aside from the assumptions, once they do find out that you are a coder, do they try to challenge your knowledge or competence on it?
No, but I think a lot of people don't have the knowledge base on their own. Like a lot of those commenters online probably, I mean, maybe they weren't coders to the extent where they were working in tech. I don't know. But I have plenty online to back up my knowledge. I'd answered hundreds of questions from other programmers, and I've written all these tutorials on optical character recognition, CI/CD, which is continuous integration pipelines, continuous delivery. All these sort of, I created so many resources that if they wanted to look them up, they can.
You just let the resume speak for itself.
Yeah. At this point, it's fortunate that I can do that. But even before I had an actual resume, the nice thing about tech, and I saw that G-Code does this, they help you create a portfolio. And I essentially created a portfolio for myself by developing my own apps and answering questions on Stack Overflow, writing tutorials, until I was able to show that I had some work to back up what I was claiming I was able to do.
Now, were you working or studying software engineering as you were doing modeling and acting?
Just towards the end of modeling is when I started working on iPhone development, because I got an iPhone and I just wanted to see how it ticked. I wanted to figure out how to make it work.
Because I was wondering, like, as far as time management is concerned, were you able to act and study coding or practice what you do at the same time?
Okay, so right now I definitely do that. When I first started modeling, though, I lived in a lot of places. I had my partner in New York for a long time, but I also lived in Paris, London, and Berlin, and I'd stay in each of those places for maybe 6 months at a time and just rotate around. And while I was in those places, that was when I was really focused on the programming, which was fortunate because, so my agency in New York told me to go to Europe and stay there for a bit, to get new pictures in my portfolio. And when I came back to America, they wouldn't answer my phone calls or my emails. And they told me that they'd gotten rid of me while I was away. After I walked in there in person and finally got an answer. And so after that, I was very glad that I started focusing more on the iPhone development, and I even turned down jobs after that to focus on it more. It was a hard transition to make because there was a point when I was modeling when I was making good money, and to just kind of turn my back on it and try to put all my time into just having some stability, this backup stability, career stability. That was a hard transition, but it ended up being worth it in the end.
One of the things that I feel like a lot of people don't discuss, is, especially when it comes to like successful people, is imposter syndrome, where you have continued success, you reach all of these achievements, and you still have self-doubt. So what are some words of advice that you can give to any young person that wants to get into coding, that's having those types of thoughts?
Yeah, I know it's very common, and I that's not my particular struggle. That might sound obnoxious, but that's not my, I think I just have had, to survive for so long, like out of college, it's just been an issue of, okay, how do I earn a living? How do I stay housed? You know, I mean, I've done pretty well. When I stopped modeling and I made good money, I got down to my last $50 before I started booking coding work, which luckily paid way more than $50 an hour, which I mean, it's like, it felt like a gift, you know? But I think it's just about being focused on yourself. I do deal with a lot of people who are, for example, I interviewed one guy for a job, and he laughed when I came on the Zoom, and he said, "Are you interviewing?" He's like, "Are you?" I said, "Yes," and he said, "Really?" "Yes." I didn't get him the job, but I know that I am capable of doing what I'm capable of doing. And I think the fact that I don't have that imposter syndrome is because I know my limits. And so I just try to keep it a firm mind on what I'm capable of, what I'm not capable of, what I can learn going forward in order to become capable of those next things. And I just focus on myself and my need to earn a living more than I focus on other people's opinions.
So you've been in tech for how long? Yeah, clap it up for that answer. I said engagement people, but how long have you been in tech?
So I graduated from Amherst with my computer science degree and theater degree in 2006. But then I didn't start coding as a career until I moved to Los Angeles in around 2014.
So almost 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years.
For people who are new to tech, what are some, I gotta make sure I get this right, what are some program languages or technologies that you would recommend to them?
Okay, that I'd recommend.
To start with.
Okay,
and they can give them the reasons why too.
So I code in, I'm an iOS developer, which it started out in a more difficult language called Objective-C, but over time, Apple introduced a new language called Swift, which is easier to work with, and Swift UI, which is even easier to work with. So there is, that's a decent language to get started with, but probably the most accessible languages would be web development languages. For iOS development, it requires a Mac computer, and that's a huge hurdle, and it requires specific platforms. But for web development, you could find an IDE, and it's a development environment to work with, you know, from anywhere from the library even. And those languages, JavaScript, CSS, HTML are good ways to refer them. Notice that G-code has that in the web development course.
Do you have any memorable moments as far as working on projects that you can share with us?
Yeah,
that have left like a lasting impact on you?
Yeah, well, the past 2 years I've been a lead engineer on a project, and I've been in charge of a team of 10 people or so, and being a leader is probably it's harder than the development for me, and it's a lot of work to just work with everyone's personalities and coordinate everything while still coding and contributing to the project. And yeah, there have been high points and low points in this contract. Luckily, the other leads and I we've been able to navigate that. But the leadership part is just learning to lead. I think that's the biggest thing I learned.
Now, even for people who aren't in tech, we know that it is constantly evolving, constantly changing, even with AI. And I didn't know that this was a thing, but there's conversations as far as like the intersection of modeling and AI. I guess now there's ways to create print models to where you don't need an actual model. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think so. We're both actors, and I'm in SAG, and the union is currently working on negotiating terms to make sure that this doesn't happen where AI replaces actors, even. And unfortunately, modeling doesn't have a union, and that's one of the major issues with it. I could say, I mean, I might as well say some about my modeling career and what it was like now. But my first big job, I was not supposed to make it as a model. I went to every single agency in New York, maybe twice. I was rejected from every agency in New York, and then this one smaller agency found me online, and I met with some designers for Fashion Week. I didn't book anything. I was out on a sidewalk in the middle of winter in the snow, handing out pamphlets for East St. Laurent for not very much money when I got a call from Calvin Klein. And so that night, I walked into their headquarters and they booked me on the spot for an exclusive contract. So I became the first African-American Calvin Klein exclusive, which is crazy that
Clap.
The fact that I was the first was shocking to me, but I think that's one of the issues I had with modeling over time is that they can have shows like the season before Calvin Klein, there were no Black people on the runway where they had 15 models, you know. Yeah. How is that possible? But that was happening over and over again. And there was a time where I was the one Black model they would book in the show. And there were shows where they had a Black model and they would tell me that there was one out of those 50 girls, they had a Black model, and so they couldn't use it for their show. And yeah, at least they were honest that time. Like I appreciated the honesty. If anything, just so to know what the industry was about. And that's not even the only issue. There are very young girls in modeling, and I was lucky that I started after college. But they have, 16-year-old girls, or even as young as 13. I modeled with some 13-year-old girls who are traveling often on their own in countries, living on their own and don't speak the language. But back to your question, could you read?
Oh no, I was just asking. You pretty much answered it as far as artificial intelligence and modeling was.
So even from back then, there was technology in fashion. 3D printing fashion was the thing. And yeah, I think so. I did the Victoria's Secret show catalog, all that, and I think there was some 3D printing stuff. So yeah, that's been around. When it comes to AI, just like with SAG, I think all industries are going to need some regulation. The government needs to make sure that not everyone is replaced by AI. And so yeah, what SAG's doing now, I think is very important, just to say, okay, you can't start replacing actors with AI actors. And I think they should make rules for that with all industries, including modeling, or else we'll have some very difficult time once everyone is replaced by robots.
Exactly. So as far as technology and its evolvement, how do you stay updated on the latest like tech trends and tech developments?
Well, I'm so busy with work often. I do like up to the summer I was doing 70, 80 hours a week of work. Right now I'm down to more normal number of hours per week. But so a lot of the time when I'm trying to keep updated, it's in relation to the stuff that I'm working on. So that's mainly how I learn about the new technologies. For example, I'm going to be working with the Vision Pro. Apple has a new AR device. So I'm going to play with some AR technology, augmented reality technology. And yeah, so I try to make sure that I'm getting paid for learning the new technologies.
And being in positions like yours, it's not really just a one man or one woman job, even just in STEM in general, really in all different aspects of life. It's not a one man or one woman job. So is there an experience that you can share with us where you had to collaborate on a certain project and then it was crucial in getting that project finished?
But sometimes it is a one man or one woman job. And I've had times like that too. I'm a contractor, so I've worked in apps from start to finish. And I've had to build entire technologies on my own. But of course, it's great to collaborate with people and draw their ideas. A lot of people think that acting and computer programming are so different, but there's a lot of creativity, and I see them both as being artistic in a way, and you really see that when you're dealing with designers, for example, and you're coming up with trying to figure out user behaviors, which is also when you're acting, you're trying to figure out why people behave the way they do, and so I feel that way when I'm coding as well, and to be able to work with other people and getting other perspectives, I think it's so important. That's why the lack of diversity in tech is such a bad thing, is because there's so many missing perspectives in development. There's times where everyone has blind spots, and so I think our world would be better, our technology we use would be better, and since technology is such a big part of our lives, like our lives would be better if we had more perspectives contributing to the technology that we use and make.
Along your journey, have you been blessed or fortunate enough to find any other woman in coding that kind of took you under her wing or not? Or be like a mentor?
No, not that to bring in her wing, no. Yeah, I meet very few female coders, unfortunately. But yeah, I guess when it comes to role models, I did mention my dad and his coding, and he was from Virginia. He passed away maybe 5 years ago or so, and he grew up, in the South, and there was separate but equal at first. Well, equal. It wasn't equal. I visited his old school. I was in his little town, and so when the schools were segregated at first, he went to school, and then Brown versus Ford came in, and his town shut down all the black schools. They decided to get rid of public schools, switch everything to a private school, and then only accept the white kids to private school. So everyone in his town, this is Farmville, Virginia area. Farmville, Virginia is the big city compared to where he's from, but he went to school in Farmville, Prospect County, Virginia. And so many kids were out of school for 5 years, but my father decided to leave his family behind and go up north, actually to Massachusetts at first, to finish his high school. And then he went to college, he went to Howard in DC. Then he went to the military. And then he went to Harvard business school. And that's where my mother met him there. So we were both there. But he had a drive to succeed. He would stay awake all night, just tapping his foot, just trying to, I guess, prove himself. And I think there's some of that in me too. I
just met you, but I can see it. I can feel it.
Yeah, I wish I didn't feel the need to have to prove myself. But I think that's the way society is.
And I was gonna say it's not a bad thing.
I guess it's just unfortunate that we can't just be taken at face value all the time. that people just will automatically judge when they see it. So, but I'm sure that's something a lot of people are used to.
Well, I want to thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us. We're going to open the floor up for questions, but I do have two more. First being, because there are young people who want to get into coding. So are there any resources or books or websites that you know of that could possibly help them out?
Well, I saw the gcodehouse.com, like that's the name of the site. There is a program that was discussed earlier for web development and for data analytics, and both are really important. When it comes to web development, obviously that's very much in high demand, but so is data analytics and data. What's it called? Trying to work out data and statistics, trying to figure out analyzing. I guess I can't think of any other word than analytics right now. Yeah, those are in very high demand right now. So I think it's great that there's a program like that. Like I said, I built up a resume basically by using Stack Overflow, and that's the #1 programming site. So it's a great source of information and asking questions and answering questions, and there's potential there. I've done tutorials for a site that was previously called raywonderlift.com, and now it's called Codeco, KODECO.com, and that has great tutorials too. And YouTube. When I was first starting, even there were plenty of YouTube videos where I follow along and learn from there. Yeah, there are a lot of good resources online. And code.org is one site that has a lot of lists of resources available. So. And
lastly, what's your vision for tech, and how do you see young people playing a role in shaping it?
I think computer programming needs to be as important as any other type of literacy. I think it's so much a part of our society, and that it really behooves people to at least just check it out and see what it's about before automatically assuming they wouldn't be interested. So yeah, I think it's such a part of our world. And even with AI, that still requires, even though AI hopefully won't take away all the jobs, it might take away a lot, but there's still a limited need for people to work with AI, develop it, train it. It needs training data and some analysis in order to make sure that it is behaving as expected. So I think there is a need, or going to be a need, for programmers for a long time. So,
Lyndsey Scott. There we go, baby. Do we have any questions in the audience? I think there's no questions. Oh, do we have any questions from audience members? No? Do you have a question? You have one back there too? I think they said there was a mic for them. You don't need one? I'll walk down there too.
I know I'm a TSU, Texas Southern University student, and I'm also a mother. I don't know if you're a mom, but like, if you had a child, what age would you start coding with them? Because I would love to get her into coding. I've been looking for coding stuff, and she's 5. So I was wondering, like, what's the age? And then also, like, how as like a young Black woman to be able to get into the doors and like get into coding when there's so many few opportunities for us.
Well, I don't have any kids, but I do have nephews, and I gave my 4-year-old nephew some coding games last year. He didn't play them. I think it's the sort of thing where I think with kids, sometimes it's good to let them be kids, but just to let them know that these things are available when they're ready. There are lots of resources. The code.org website I mentioned, I filmed a tutorial for them starring Anna and Elsa from Frozen, and it was geared towards kids. So I know there are plenty of resources out there, and that's one. Is a good way to just learn the basics of coding and do it in a way that is creating art, like we're creating little drawings on the ice with code. And I think it's important when you're learning to code to do something that create something that you're going to enjoy. Coding is nothing without other interests to apply it to. So showing that to kids is, I think, a great way to get them into it, just making it fun for them. And yes, there are resources out there already. Code.org is free, for example. But yeah, I mean, if they're not ready now, maybe they'll be ready some other time soon. My nephew's not ready yet.
Is that the one whose birthday is
Yeah.
Halloween?
Yeah, his birthday, he'll be 5 on Halloween. We'll keep working on it then.
We have another question in the back.
Hi, yes. There are two separate questions. The first one is, you said you didn't find a mentor along your way. Are you mentoring someone, or have you found someone that you can mentor?
Yeah, well, I have a coding scholarship. This is my second round where I donate college scholarships to a number of students, and I talk to students. I do what I can.
The other question is, the company that you work for, is it a long-standing company or a startup?
A long-standing.
Okay.
I'm very lucky. You know what? Actually, before the pandemic, everyone was a startup that would hire me. Yeah, because I only worked from home because I do acting also, so I like the flexible schedule. I do at least 4 hours of acting class a week. I have my auditions. I like to be able to keep my schedule where I can decide if I put at night or weekend, what have you. And this company I've been working for now, since the pandemic, a lot of billion-dollar companies have been using remote contractors when they never would before. So yeah, this one's a very good company. McGraw-Hill, the textbook company. There's an app that I did a lot of the coding for the Sharpen app. It's in iOS and Android, and you want to check out something. Educational app.
Another question in the group. Blue.
Hi, Lyndsey. I want to say thank you first. And my name is Ivy. I'm a student at Boston University. I'm studying data science. I actually just graduated from G-Code Analytics program this morning. My question to you is, how do you take time to prioritize yourself and your well-being with both the workload that you have, like you said 70 hours, I remember, and the adversity that you have faced throughout your career?
Yeah, like I definitely had major struggles since I was young, even when it comes to like mental health and stuff. But I've been in therapy for a very long time now, so I'm in a pretty good place. But yeah, over the summer, I would rent like beach houses in Malibu, so that if I was working 80 hours a week, I was doing it from the beach. But I was at home, I was having my neck was hurting, I was getting sick all the time, and so I'm like, okay, let me just leave Hollywood, get myself on the beach, and just work from there. So I did that a bit over the summer. And I do little things like that to just try to keep myself relaxed while I'm working, and yeah, I do plenty of things for my mental health and wellness. I do hot yoga and some meditation, but I also do therapy. I'll do in a women's group that we meet like once a month. And I mentioned my father's death. After he passed away, I had like a really difficult time for a bit. And yeah, I made sure to seek out resources to get through that. So yeah, I think it's always, I think the stigma is going away a bit. There's still some, like there's still a good bit where if you, I think a lot of people are embarrassed about therapy even, but I think that's something that literally everyone can benefit from in some way or another. Hopefully the government makes it easier for people to do that.
Thank you, appreciate it. Black shirt.
Hi, my name is Micheline, and I'm a little cold, so my voice is gonna shake. The question that I have is, okay, let me explain a little bit. So, I make content. So my Instagram content and my TikTok content do not go together at all. On TikTok, I make coding content, and on Instagram, I make carnival content. So what I would like to do is have them both exist, because I'm one person and I believe they can exist together. And you as a model and a software engineer, you have talked about how most people say they don't go together, but you have found that you can mesh the two. So the question is, how do you have the two coexist without one compromising the other?
Yeah, I think when I first started, even
She trying to steal my job. I just gotta say that first. Good question.
to answer about the social media stuff, I have like anxiety around social media, definitely, and I don't post as much as I would like to maybe at some point, but I also am at home programming most of the day. There are no pictures or anything that I can post something flattering most of the time. But yeah, when I first started modeling, even also doing acting was considered, it was thought that if you were an actor and a model, it would make each of those careers take the other one, it would make you seem less serious about what you were doing. And I think now it seems as if a lot of people are able to move between things more easily. And for me, I feel fortunate that with the coding, I've been able to support the acting side of things. Even I wrote a screenplay and I'm able to hire someone to rewrite some of it for me. And I'm able to have a flexible life and schedule in order to support all of my dreams and activities. And I think being multifaceted is something that's really acceptable, more than acceptable. Something that can inspire people in a lot of ways. So I think it's great that you share so much of yourself. And if that makes you happy, then also, I mean, if it makes you happy, then do it regardless of what actually people think when you're your platform. And I think that comes through. For me, if I'm looking at someone's social media and I can see that they're enjoying themselves, it doesn't matter if it's not fully connected or it doesn't all make sense as a picture or puzzle. It's like that joy and that honesty, that authenticity comes through. So,
And I think the beauty about social media is you can play around with it and have fun and don't have to take yourself too seriously until you find out what works for your page. So you'll be good. You'll be great. Next question.
Hi, my name is Darnell Thomas, and I just want to ask you a question, not pertaining to coding, because I know nothing about it. It's pertaining to your modeling career. So what would I tell you the truth, I am in the Mr. of Women of Color, WOC magazine, WOC.
Clap it up. We're celebrating the wins.
Yeah. And I'm in the winter fall magazine. And I want to ask you, what would I do? Because a lot of people ask me, are you a model? Are you a model? And I say no, then they tell me I should go for it. So how would I go about doing it?
yeah, I think things have changed a lot since I started because of social media. Anyone can really have a platform and put themselves out there and be discovered online. So I think it takes work to actually start to take the pictures, because I wasn't very great at being photographed at first. So just getting pictures taken and practicing is the way to go. Like when I was like the unpopular awkward kid in high school. I was very skinny. I was also I went to this preparatory academy from 6th to 8th grade. I was the only Black person in my class, and then from 9th to 12th there were more. But I had no friends. I was very unpopular. It was a shock when I ended up becoming a model to people after college. But I had to like work on. I had a little crooked smile, and I just had to work on just getting the right good pictures. But yeah, I think social media is a great way to just put it out there and get feedback and then work on getting better.
So how long would it take, you think, with any agency?
But it depends on the goals, I guess.
Oh, depending on the goal. Would I go to in Massachusetts or in New York? Which one is better?
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on it depends on the market, but things are with all the jobs. A lot of work is remote nowadays. Even like the acting stuff I do, it's all self-tape. So I think you can really be anywhere. It's much easier to be discovered wherever you are. All it needs to be.
All right, thank you.
Thank y'all for y'all's questions. Appreciate it. Thank you for participating. I also want to say thank you to both Bridges. Thank you to Tanisha. Thank you to the whole G Code team for having us. Thank you to State Street, Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts. Thank you. Appreciate it. And I'm sure Miss Bridget has some more words for us, or if we need to thank anybody else, or how can they get interested into G Code as well? How can they get involved with G Code rather?
Sure, great. Thank you so much, Lyndsey. We welcome you to Boston, and we really appreciate you sharing those gems around coding, modeling, and how you integrated both, but also in it both being passions of yours and that you're still active in those spaces. So again, thank you for sharing your story with us today, and thank you, Amir, for being a fantastic host. Yeah, for getting the crowd, hot and getting us engaged and asking some fantastic questions so we could have an engaging conversation. So again, thank you for the work that you're doing in those spaces, and G Code as a community always welcomes you. And I'll say a little bit more about G Code. So as we mentioned earlier, we offer web dev, and we just added data analytics and have now an alum here, which is awesome. The other component of G Code that we are excited to make an announcement about is that we have a property, and we have integrated housing into our course offerings. So we will be breaking ground on that housing in early spring. And so what that means is that we purchased the property in this area, in the Roxbury area, and up to 14 young women will be able to live, work, learn together in this space for up to 2 years, where they will be on this path together to see if STEM or coding is something of interest to them, and take a deeper dive in that space. So we'll keep you posted on our social media, on our website as the developments unfold. But we're excited that the state invested in us. They gave us a grant for $750,000 for us to do that work. So we really appreciate their investment. We also have some incredible local partners and other folks that are in this ecosystem and in this space, that are co-conspirators doing this work with us. And William Watkins represents one of them, the Urban League. So I'm going to invite Will to come up here and say a few words before I introduce the counselor. But again, thank you so much.
I want to say thank you to everyone here today. As Lyndsey said, we're co-conspirators, and this is a true fight. And we talk constantly about how can we position ourselves in this industry, because there is a lack thereof, and that's the reason why we're here to talk about this. My name is William Watkins. I'm the Vice President of Digital Strategy and Partnership. A partnership for the Urban League. And 7 years ago, we started a coding program called MSimbo. MSimbo is Swahili for coding. And we've been doing that for, like I said, 7 years. And I came over here, because we're doing a program for youth called YODA, Youth Opportunities Developing Achievers, training them in code, engineering, AI, virtual reality. There was a question about how soon you should train your young person. Remember this, it was that Sunday dinner. When you sat at the table with your mom or dad, and they had cue cards. And those cue cards with A on one side and apple on the other. Or you had that cue card that said 2 + 2, and on the other side it said 4. They trained us early and often before we went into the school. And the work that Bridget and I have dedicated ourselves to is because we know that this information, if you didn't live through COVID like we all did, it pushed us all online in some way, shape, or form. We had become an engineer overnight. Most of us, like myself, I was able to see the Jetsons, right? And then watching the Jetsons, they would go up to the wall and they'll press a button on the wall and the food would come out. And I said, damn, that's Uber. Yeah, we're living that right now. They're talking about autonomous vehicles. Read a report from McKinsey, and they're talking about 15 areas in which there's a high concentration of Black or brown that AI is looking to take those jobs. So just imagine this, you go into the supermarket now, and there's this big area that says self-checkout. That's AI. And remember, those were lines that your mothers, your fathers, your sisters, your cousins were working at. Now they're gone. So what we have dedicated ourselves to, as well as G-Code, is making sure to create those developers, those people who can fix those problems, because these are all issues and problems that at the end of the day, when we're coding, we're trying to figure out a problem. And if we sit idly by, we're going to be consumed. That's where the word consumption, consumer, we're going to be consumed by it. And we're going to be at the beck and call of this new technology is on the rise. So we have to position ourselves. So however you can support G-Code by bringing in young women, however you can support financially, and she didn't ask me to do this, because she's my sister in this movement, and I want to see her succeed, because if she succeeds, the seeds that are laid down and is watered and nurtured in the building of a facility to house this content, we need to support that. We need to support that and allow her to be free to do what it is that she needs to do with these young women. But I want to thank each and every one of you for coming here today. And however the Urban League can support, I'm there by this call. But however we can support any and every one in here. We have programming, like I said, for young people in STEM. Get involved, get your young people involved. You get involved. We have programming for adults as well around coding and graphic design. Get involved. I appreciate you.
Thank you, and we are coming to an end. I wanted to invite our city councilor up, as she is spearheading and leading much of that fight in our community for access and opportunity. She's done an incredible job really pushing to ensure that District 7 gets the resources that we need so that we can not only thrive here, but we can remain here. And spend our dollars here and circulate our dollars here. And Councilor Anderson has been at that forefront. I just wanted to say a little bit about her. Councilor Tanya Anderson is an inspirational journey from Cape Verde to Roxbury, became the first African immigrant and Muslim American elected to the Boston City Council on November 2nd, 2021. She proudly represents District 7, comprising of Roxbury, Dorchester, Fenway, and part of the South End. She is a champion. She is a leader. She's an amazing person, and I'm happy to have her here today. Councilor Anderson, if you wouldn't mind saying a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. I can only wish and pray that I live up to those standards. Thank you so much, Bridget. That was very nice of you. So I'm the District 7 City Councilor, and as Bridget mentioned, it covers Roxbury. So if you wrap your arms around American Legion Highway from the park, and then you come up Blue Hill, and the other arm is around Columbus Ave, all the way to Fenway Symphony. And that's how I usually describe it and then we are the largest district by 80,000 constituents, more than half of that adults. So lots of work. We're the most disenfranchised district, historically disenfranchised district up to now. I am the first Black woman to chair Ways and Means in the city of Boston. So thank you. Overseeing the budget was extremely important for us, but also bringing that education to the community and just sort of teaching folks how to navigate $8 billion budget, Boston's budget. Goes without saying that it was a huge undertaking. But with God's help in the community, I always like to say that my power comes from the community. So by empowering the community, by bringing information and education to the community, therefore providing a platform for folks to not only navigate resources in the city of Boston, but also to feel that they are part of it. If a community is not integrated economically, then we are not a community. And you see that with the way that elected officials respond to you. If you are not voting, if you're not properly integrated, they find that you are not of the affluent background, then they don't respond. And so I'm trying to change that narrative so that the backdrop is no longer just Anglo culture, that we can fit, so that it's not so conventional and status quo, and so that every Muslim girl or the girl that comes from the projects or the Black girl or the poor white kid from the projects can make it. And we find room to create that culture so everybody can fit. As far as the words that I heard today, in terms of coding, Bridget, thank you so much for making me a part of this, but I'm only a small speck in comparison to the work here. This is the real work. When I am advocating and moving funds, I only brought $300 million in capital investments for the first time to Roxbury. But what you do with that, right? What that translates to, whether it's contract or supporting you on a legislative way to reach funding, is the real work on the ground. And for that, I love you. You are my sister, and you're really pulling the weight. But creating this housing and workforce in the same time, but also in an industry that obviously otherwise would not afford us the opportunity in the space to be in is extremely important. I have a hobby, and that is fashion design. So I totally understand the double entendre, but that we are multifaceted and that we're not monoliths. And so the way that for the young lady in the back with the carnival, the black shirt, the carnival and the content on coding, the way that I infused mine is through theater. And so I was a mental health provider for about 13 years. I worked in public health for about 25 years. And so I took us to theater, and I would design and sew my own costumes. And if you go on my social media, you'll scroll up and you'll see all of these gowns, these huge avant-garde things that I used to create. Thank you. And so I would go to the theater and I started creating skits I would produce and direct and design for those costumes. My own mental health sort of themed skits in theater. And we were the best attended show at the Strand Theater. So please know that anything is doable. If you want to do, put yourself out there, believe it or not. I always say the Black woman is the most qualified, Black and brown people, the most qualified to change the world. And we're doing it here in a really big way, because I think coding is definitely a big way. And whatever I can do, this small little 5 foot tall African woman in Roxbury, and whatever I can do to support, to navigate or to build our legislation so that we can get to the dollar, that's what I'm here for. So I appreciate you, every single one of you, for your fierce, your courage, your artistic abilities. Absolutely, it's all intertwined. I am there with you. You were speaking my language when you were talking. And love you all as my people, and will continue to serve you. Thank you.
And as we wrap up, I'd just like to say too, that next week we'll be at Afrotech. So see us there, catch our content there. We'll be streaming live from what should be a fantastic event. And so we look forward to continuing this work and this journey with you all. I'm asking Bridget to wrap us up.
I've been working closely with GCO to pull together events like this and to also bring money to the organization. So we are definitely open to donations. You can go to gcodehouse.com and make a donation. Also, I want to thank everyone for coming out today on this beautiful Saturday. It's really nice to see you all. I want to also thank our major sponsor for this event, at State Street Foundation and the Urban League. Will, thank you so much for supporting us and supporting this initiative. And I'm really happy. I thought this went well. I thought the conversation was great, and it's definitely, stimulating, and we're looking for more opportunities to do this. Thank you. Please, help me talk to the community. Yes.
Thank you. So much.
We're going to come out with
Oh, man.
Yes.